Hey everyone, it's Brian Burghardt with Rockaway Sustainable Landscapes. I am the Director of Operations and Vice President here at Rockaway. Well, believe it or not, it's time for our August Dog Days of Summer Maintenance Update. The last couple of weeks of July have really shown us what it's like to live in Florida during the summertime. We've had super hot temperatures, 95, 96, with really high heat indexes, 105 to 110 some days. Humidity so thick you can cut it, and it's really just not the most pleasant time to be outside. But we're landscapers, so that's what we do. We were a little drier than we'd like for the summertime. We went 5, 6, and even 7 days the last few weeks in some areas of town without getting measurable rainfall. Combined with the continued drought restrictions here in Northeast Florida, it really has been a bit challenging on our landscapes. Fortunately though, we're through the hottest part of the year. The first week in August is typically the peak of our temperatures here in Jacksonville, and then we start to moderate ever so slowly as we move closer into fall. Hopefully, and typically August is our wettest month, so those afternoon showers should become more consistent and persistent, and that helps moderate the temperature as well with that cloud cover, and we'll knock a few degrees off the temperature at the end of the day. Now let's take a look at what's happening this month across our agronomics, irrigation, maintenance, and enhancement and landscape divisions. Our agronomics program has been working steadily through July and is now transitioning into August. This past application was an inspect and treat, so we're looking for chinch bugs, gray leaf spot, mealy bugs on the muley grass, things like that. So it was really just getting out and taking a look at all the properties and treating anything that we did find. Mainly we were seeing chinch bugs, a little bit of mealy bug, things like that, but we've taken care of them. We're really pleased with our chinch bug control that we got on 2 previous apps, but that is starting to wane a little bit. Our next app is Acceloprin Extra with micronutrients. Acceloprin is a new generation systemic insecticide that works really well on sod webworms and armyworms. Some years we battle those worms quite intensely from August through about October, depending on the season, and we've had really good success with the Acceloprin in past years, and now we do a blanket application on all our properties. The benefit of the Acceloprin is it also works equally well for chinch bugs, given about 3 months of protection, so that should get us through the majority of the chinch bug season. As the techs are working through the properties, they'll also be looking for active chinch bugs, again looking for fungus, looking for any pests or diseases on the shrubs and plant material, and they'll have granular fertilizer in their hopper or on their truck. So if they do find some areas that either had some old chinch bug damage or some active chinch bug damage, we'll treat the chinch bugs, and then we'll go ahead and drop some granular fertilizer, which should, as we get more rain and as the chinch bugs die out, we'll get a little bit more healing a little quicker with that added fertilizer. So that's what our agronomics team will be doing. They'll also be responding to spray requests from our account managers, our field staff, our crew leaders, really anyone that we have in the community that's out on a property has the ability within Rockaway's system to put in a spray request if they see chinch bugs, or an irrigation request if they see a hot spot. Right now we're starting to see mealy bugs on the muley grass, and we're also seeing a lot of mites on the Fakahatchee grass. Both native plants, but they are prone to some insects. Those are the main ones. We try and line up the properties so that if we're doing an application, we can also take care of some spray requests. Our techs will also be doing our mosquito control program. We typically do those mostly for our residential clients, where we do 10 fog applications per season. We do it at my house. I have not been bit by a mosquito all summer, as a little ad there, but we definitely could put a price out for HOAs, condos, or commercial spaces if you're so inclined. You can get with your account managers and we can get you a price for that if you'd like to look into that. Irrigation wise, our irrigation team is super busy. Like I said earlier, we have had a little less rain, a little less frequently than we would like. We're still in phase 3 drought restrictions, so we're still limited to 1 watering day per week. So as we have been through this whole drought, we're doing cycle and soak scheduling. So we're watering for about half the amount of time we normally would, but we're doing it twice in 1 run cycle. Since we are getting some chinch bug damage, we are putting some second run days on some select areas to try and minimize damage where we either had chinch bug or severe drought stress. Some of our hillsides and open areas dry out a little more, and it's hard to combat the chinch bugs if we don't have adequate moisture. So we are selectively putting on a few more programs there. If we start getting more consistent rain, then we'll pull those off. But for right now, we're trying to balance conserving water and conserving the dollars and cents of our clients. Our irrigation team will be continuing to do their monthly inspections, making sure that we're making, like I said, making most efficient use of our water. So adjusting heads as they need, fixing any break, either at the time of inspection if we have a pre-approval, or after our proposals are approved. If we don't have a pre-approval and you'd like to get one, it really does expedite our repair services with the irrigation department. So instead of a tech having to come out, inspect, whatever it is, the 5 to, I think our biggest property is about 300 zones, 5 to 300 zones, and then complete the paperwork, send it out, get approval, come back, get it scheduled. A lot of times on our commercial properties especially, we'll have $250 to $700 worth of approval, so that as the techs are inspecting, they can just go ahead and fix the broken head, or swap out the solenoid or the valve depending on what they find in the field. But instead of having sometimes a week to, during a drought, 2-week lag time between inspection, proposal, and completion, we can do that all in the one time. So we find it, and you'll still get a proposal, you'll still get an inspection report, you'll just get an invoice with it as well. But you'll have that peace of mind. And if anything goes above and beyond that pre-approval, then we'll come back and we'll ask for more approval if needed. I'd say most properties that we've had a long time, or at least more than a few months, our pre-approval is pretty close to our average repair bill. We definitely don't try and use all of that pre-approval, but it definitely helps things, especially in these hotter times and the drier times. So we can minimize turf stress. The irrigation team is also following behind our enhancement and landscape crews, making sure that any flowers we install or planting enhancements that we do have the proper irrigation coverage and have the proper irrigation settings, both for plant establishment and to fall in line with the drought restrictions as best as possible as well. As always, I'm continuing to monitor the drought restrictions, and hopefully they'll loosen up a little bit here in the next few weeks when we start getting some rain more consistently. We will, go ahead and bump up the watering as those restrictions allow. I just saw St. John's River Water Management District put out some information yesterday, just letting people know that it was still a drought and that the restrictions were still there. And I think we're 6 to 10 inches still below where we should be during the last, that's just the last 6 months. I think when you add the prior 9 months, we're in a greater deficit than that. But just since the beginning of the year, we're still 6.5 inches down. So, I said earlier in the year that I think it would be August or September until they lifted the drought restrictions, and I'm thinking September is probably it if we have a nice wet August, which right now the forecast is calling for a good amount of rain, but it's Florida, so I'll believe it when it hits the ground. Our maintenance update. So all of our guys are working through this hot stretch that we've had, these dog days of summer. As you can imagine, sometimes it's hard to get out and get your paper or get your mail from your mailbox or just go from your front door to the car without breaking a sweat. And our entire team, I'm super proud of them. They do it day in and day out from 6:30 in the morning till 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 sometimes at night, trying to get done without much complaining. And I'd say by and large, they're laughing and pleasant most days when they get back to the shop. Not every day. Some days are just miserable. But they do it, and I want to give it up to them, the whole team, not just the maintenance team, that work out in the field and make it happen. It is not the easiest thing to do. Really, August is truly about maintenance. The grass is growing as fast as it will all season. We get a good amount of water. All our fertilizers that we've been putting out all year, say we mow your project on Wednesday, Between Wednesday and Wednesday, sometimes we're getting, 5 inches of growth and mowing. They're really just trying to keep up with the grass, make sure that the plants are neat and weed free and looking good, nipping and tucking here and there. Most of our properties, especially our PGR properties, we don't have to do much hedge trimming. We do it that way on purpose. Those properties that didn't get PGR or don't have a lot of hedge material, some of our smaller properties, we'll continue, and those with PGR, we'll continue working through those properties section by section. So all 4 sections will get touched, as well as keeping up with the round herbicide and making sure the beds are looking clean, which I've been to quite a few properties in the last couple weeks, and most of our beds are not completely weed free, but looking pretty good for this time of the year. Our crew leaders look for pests, and they'll be looking for the mealy bugs. We go over that in our crew leader meetings, but they'll also be looking for Fakahatchee grasses. They start to get brown this time of the year. They have mites. In nature, typically Fakahatchees they're kind of meant to burn. So if they burn, they won't die, and that gets rid of the mites. This time of the year, especially when we're not getting a lot of rain, we get a lot of mites on our Fakahatchee in the residential and the commercial landscape. So we kind of mimic that. We'll cut them back this month, and then we'll come behind it and use a miticide to try and keep them as minimal as possible. Our crew leaders are trained to notice those things, and then they'll put in a spray request, and the next time they're on that section, if they don't have time that day when they notice it to hit the Fakahatchee, the next round through that section, they'll go ahead and they'll cut them back, just like we do in the winter. A lot of smaller kind of maintenance items is what we take care of during August. Deadheading agapanthus is a big one. We try and get those seed pods off so that the plant can put more energy into making new leaves and getting bigger, and instead of putting energy into making seeds, which we're not going to utilize anyway. So we try and force the energy where we want it. Enhancements. So our enhancements division, we did all of our flower chains out end of June, beginning of July. They're all looking really good. Right now we did pink pentas and depending on the property, either gold Moundiranta or gold Alternathera. Great heat loving combo, which I've seen at quite a few properties, and they really are doing good. On top of that, we have quite a few properties getting summertime mulch, and we have a lot of palm pruning going on this year. In my opinion, the best time to get your palms pruned is the end of July or beginning to middle of August. Especially these cabbage palms here. As you can see, they flowered out, so they have all their flowers. This one hasn't quite started to berry yet, so that's what we want. We want when they're flowered, they won't put out any more spike, but before they start dropping all those berries. Horticulturally speaking, you don't have to prune those palms. It's really not important to the palm, but for us on a maintenance level, every one of those palm seedlings or palm seeds becomes or has the chance to become a little seedling, and those seedlings are really hard to combat. Really the only thing we can do is pull them or mechanically remove them with a hula hoe or something like that. There's no herbicides that we can put on there that effectively get rid of them. So the best defense, so to speak, is timely pruning of your palms. If you do it in September, you'll still have benefit, but most of those seed pods, a lot of those seeds will have already dropped. If you do it in June, you'll probably have a handful or so, seed pods that haven't spiked and are still there. So we like July and August. Obviously every palm in Jacksonville can't get pruned in that time, but if we could pick, and with our vendors, that's definitely when we get most of our palm pruning done. We're lining up enhancements on our commercial and HOA properties for the fall already. So it's a great time to plan for any enhancements that you might want. Maybe you have an entry that's looking a little sad and you want to redo it. Maybe the board has been thinking about a full re-landscape of a building or 2 buildings or the pool area, whatever the case may be. We have designers on staff, and we're more than happy to help design and price out your landscape needs. And then, we can go straight into them. We plant 12 months a year, or like I said, we already have probably 3 or 4 good projects that are slated for September and October. So we're always actively doing that. We will be sending out our hurricane letter soon enough. No one likes the H word, but it is a fact of our reality here in Florida and in Jacksonville, is that hurricanes are something that we prepare for. So be on the lookout for that. Basically how we do our hurricane preparedness is you can sign off on a not to exceed to get started on a hurricane cleanup after a storm passes. If we know that we have the okay to go ahead and start cleanup at 10 properties, those ones are going to go both on our list first and are on our properties to look at first once a storm passes and it's safe to go check out our properties. So be on the lookout for that. Also, your account managers will be creating and providing a client budget worksheet here in the next, I'd say, 45 days. We'll be putting together your past expenses for the past year, both for enhancements and irrigation, non-contracted items, putting it together so you know what you've spent this year, and then we can kind of plan and help plan for next year. Maybe, next year you want to do some big improvements. Well, we can ballpark, how much those improvements are going to be so that you can put it in your budget so that next year you have it there. So that's another thing that you should look out for. It's something that we do as a value add for our commercial clients. And actually we do that as well during hort reviews with our residential clients as well. Last thing I want to talk about right now is our agronomics team and our agronomics program. A few months ago, we went over how we section out a property. We have a very aggressive agronomics program, and it's really well built. Our operations manager, Neil, is a lifelong agronomist and a educated entomologist, which he studied bugs in college. On our commercial and residential properties, have 10 applications per season. I believe 6 fertilizations, 3 pre-Ms, and then 3 wall-to-wall insecticides. Some of those apps have, 2 of those things, some of them have 3, and then we have, I think, 4 apps that are just inspect and treats. So we go through the whole property looking for things that need treatment. It might be weeds, it might be bugs on the muhly grass, it might be aphids on your podocarpus, whatever, we're looking for them. And that's the mainstay of our agronomics program. And it really is a good, robust program. We'll get some pictures of the turf here, besides a little drought stress and some silvergrass over there. When we started working at Beaches Museum, which is where we're at right now, I think we've been in some form helping or working at Beaches Museum for about 10 to 12 years. We donated a bunch of this landscape. We were instrumental in the chapel landscape and did some of the landscaping around the Cracker House originally. So we have a lot of history here, up into the fact that our garden center used to be right across the street there. So it's kind of like going back to a home here now today. But this grass was mixed turf. Over there was mixed turf. It really is, through our agronomics program over the past decade, with minimal input of sod or anything like that, we really got this turf to look really good between the irrigation and agronomics out here. So we have those 10 apps. Basically about every 5 or 6 weeks, we're going to have a tech on your property, no matter what, either putting down a blanket app or looking, treating as needed. But the really important part of our agronomics is that we rely on our infield team to be the eyes of our program. So our crew leaders are trained during the winter and on our crew leader meetings during the grow season. Our irrigation techs, our account managers, myself, anyone that's going in on your properties is looking for things that might need treatment. On any given day, our agronomics manager will get 5 to 15 spray requests. Sometimes they're just a little tiny piece of chinch bug that the crew leader sees and wants to get sprayed before it gets too big. Or it's a big area of chinch bugs that, hey, it was dry grass, it was hard to tell, or maybe it just started out as dry grass and then chinch bugs took over it pretty quick. If there's not adequate moisture, those little buggers can reproduce pretty quick. They're also hard to tell. This year, is it drought? Is it chinch? We check a lot of brown spots on even some of our biggest properties. That gives our agronomics team the knowledge of where they need to go. So while yes, we're going to a certain property X to do the treatment, well, we're driving by property Z, and on the way we're going to hit the chinch bugs, and then they're going to put in a work order back to our agronomics manager to know that in 2 weeks they need to come back and treat that again. Works the same way with weeds. Our crew leaders or account managers, as they're doing their site walks, put in issues for through our business software to our agronomics team to make sure that they can get out and treat the weeds or treat the pests or whatever the case may be. So it really is a team approach, and we're really pleased about it. But that's how Rockaway has done it. You know, we used to do all this stuff on paper. Now we do almost all of that through our business software, from the spray request to the work order and the work ticket that the technician uses to get the information to spray those weeds. That's all electronic now, and even so far as our crew leaders give pictures of both the spot and a picture of a map showing where that is. So every month I think we're gonna teach you a little bit about how we operate. How does Rockaway do it for this month? Thanks so much. Stay cool. I'll see you in September.